Hey everyone, Garrett Miller here. And in this video, I'm going to break down why I decided to slow down a white collar, six-figure consulting business and move into a blue collar pressure washing business. Then I'm going to give you a full time lapse of literally picking up the engine from a high schooler in Facebook Marketplace all the way to me doing my first mini job. And then finally, I'm going to share how my first official client ever was not only a commercial opportunity, but it was for a multi-million dollar company. So I'm going to share more details with y'all at the very end. So make sure you stay tuned. Now, with that being said, hopping into it, I want to talk about why I've decided to slow down a consulting business where I was doing six figures per year and move into a blue collar pressure washing biz. And yes, it's partly due to AI. So it all starts when my daughter turned 1 in May of this year. I decided to, enjoy a bit of the fruits of my labor and take a couple weeks off, spend more time with her. During that time when I was decompressing, you start to get kind of a bird's eye view, a high level of what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years, growing Delta Lead and pulling myself out of the business for a little bit. And I really started to realize that a lot of the work that I was doing was so much up here, up in the head, hopping on multiple Zoom calls a day, sitting at the computer, staring at a screen all the time, coaching individuals. And while it's great, some people might like that. I know for me, I really craved using my whole body to serve others. And so this comes from when I was in college. I worked at a wine bar, fantastic time, made great friends, met amazing people, was serving them, was hustling. Then also during college, when I first got fit, I used to be 100 pounds heavier than I am now. And I got fit and, had, kind of inspired some of my friends to get in the gym, and I was helping them and kind of doing a little bit of coaching stuff. And I really look back on that time in my life as one of the most enjoyable. I was, shaking hands, seeing direct progress, clear value exchange. And I wanted to find some way I could do that, but also, grow an actual business from that and not make, $2.50 an hour bartending with tips, right? So I really started to feel that call to do something more physical and serve others. So about 2 months ago, I started a little handyman business and started going around to individuals, actually in my mom's neighborhood, majority elderly, widows and such, and dropped off flyers. I got some opportunities to lay out mulch, to trim trees, to repot plants. And it was awesome. It was a really good time. I was able to shake their hand and help them out. And I made a little bit of cash doing so. But I also realized it's very physical. I was getting on my knees, laying things out, and I was starting to think to myself, if I really want to do this, there has to be a more scalable way to go about it. And so I decided that pressure washing made the most sense. It had a low cost to entry, about $2,500. I'll actually leave a link down below to the full equipment set if y'all want to check that out, especially as when we hop into the time lapse section here in a moment. But yeah, and it allowed me to start specializing. And it really just opened up an opportunity for me to offer a bit more of a um, service where I'm not quite commoditized and everyone else can do the work that I'm doing. I can start to differentiate a bit. So, with that being said, the second reason was that I saw writing on the wall for the work that I was doing. And I don't think consulting is going completely away. I don't think coaching is going completely away, especially in person stuff. But I looked up a scenario called AI 2027, saw a video about it, basically explaining how we're going to reach superhuman AI status or potentially going to reach superhuman AI status in the next year or two. And I really started to see that the writing was on the wall for a role like mine, where I'm teaching, where I'm educating, where I'm walking someone through the process. And of course, I could still make it work, long term. I could teach others how to start leveraging AI better. But again, I was really starting to feel that kind of dullness from doing all this work up here and wanted to have something more physical, also where I could have more of a clear value exchange. I tell someone I do pressure washing, oh, great, come check out my house, right? I tell someone I consult, I have to, sell these individuals, get them into my audience, create content for them, convince them. And the value exchange was a lot more disconnected from just going over to someone's house, pressure washing their house, shaking their hands, and then going on to the next job, right? So there's also a bit more of a direct value loop there. So that being said, I want to go ahead and hop into a full time lapse from me picking up the engine from a high schooler, about an hour and a half away from me, and then actually washing my first driveway. So it's gonna be a full time lapse. I'm gonna go ahead and do a voiceover for y'all. So I'll see you in a second. All right. So after doing some research, I was able to find the engine I needed on Facebook Marketplace. I did my first deal ever. Went there. It was a kid in high school. Engine was a bit lower quality than I expected. As you can see on the way home, the exhaust popped off. I did secure it with only one strap, but I later found out that was due to some other issues that I'll talk about in a future video. But yeah, it was a good experience. I came back home, went to Ace Hardware, was able to get my hands dirty a bit, get some nuts, secure the fuel pan, get the exhaust back on there, and there's me pretty proud after a job well done that night. So the next day, there she is in all her beauty. It's a Honda GX390 engine with a general pump. I don't know the exact serial code off the top of my head, but it's a 4 gallon per minute machine, about 4,000 PSI, which is great for commercial use. There's the pump itself. That was really one of the nicest things about this is a really good quality pump, and I got it at pretty much half price, $500 for the pump and the engine, where it normally would have cost about 1,000 brand new. So I went ahead and saw there was a leak in the gas. So I saw the fuel line was actually a bit loose there. So I got my hands dirty and realized after doing some YouTube University and taking a look at it, it really wasn't too difficult. So I accessed the carburetor there, pulled off the air filter, resecured the fuel line, and also saw there might have been a leak in the gasket, bringing the fuel to the actual engine. So I wanted to get my hands dirty and kind of see what that would look like. And I ordered parts to replace that. So I decided to actually build a wooden skid in the back of my dad's old beat up F-150. It's not too beat up. It's pretty nice quality still. But yeah, basically got some plywood from Home Depot, cut to the length of the truck bed, got some 2x4, and that's my father-in-law there helping me out. And so we went ahead and got the measurements in place. We cut the wood and basically started getting things ready. You can see my wife and daughter there. So yeah, went ahead and made some additional adjustments there. Then we got some 2-inch wood screws. We started going to town, getting those screwed in, getting it secured. And to be honest, I was pretty anxious about getting all this set up beforehand, buying the equipment, buying the wood, going about $2,500, down to purchase all this stuff. And I was like, how am I going to build this all? This is so much, but just taking a crack at it, getting little by little, just making things come together, just taking each little job as it comes really made this a lot more easier and a lot easier than I would have thought. Right. And so basically got up there, we're screwing in the wood screws, getting the skid all secured. And as you can see throughout this video, this is where we're going to attach everything to. So it's going to be a full mobile rig. I've been inspired by some other pressure washers I've seen online, just kind of taking a look and doing some research to how they do it, what equipment they get, how their setup is built with all the hose reels and actual hosing they use and all the other equipment. And so we went ahead and started changing the oil here. Turns out it was pretty clean. But basically went ahead and just emptied it anyways. There's quite a lot of oil. I was surprised about how much actually goes in there. And the engine itself, it might look pretty small to some of y'all, but this thing was a bit of a workout getting two in there. So basically, once I started putting some oil in there, took some time to actually get the oil to go in all the way. So I had to wait for it to kind of settle down, and then it was just filling it up with about 32 ounces, I think, about 1.1 quarts, about 34 ounces, I think exactly. Then we got the engine on top of some cardboard. We started making some marks where the screws were going to go, and then we went ahead and put that cardboard on top of the skid and started drilling some holes. So then we were getting the engine ready to go. I'll pull the camera up here in a moment for y'all to see. But we basically put the cardboard over the top, drilled the holes in, and as you can see here in a moment, we actually ended up putting the drills in the wrong direction for the engine. So one of the big things I wanted to watch out for is that the pump was going backward, but the exhaust was like not directly against the side of the truck bed. I've heard and seen people actually have melted the side of a truck bed from the exhaust from the engine being too close. So I wanted to make sure it was far enough away. And then also the pump was going in the right direction. So I was able to hook up all of the hose reels and such. So as you can see, we tried to line it up how we wanted, but then we realized, oh, we actually drilled holes for the wrong way. So I went back, put the cardboard in place, did some measurements to make sure it was all lined up, and then went ahead and drilled the new holes. So we have some extra holes for things to go through, and then the camera actually died when I put it in. So we got it secured. That piece I just showed you there was a 1/2 British standard piping to a 3/4 garden hose connector. I could not find that anywhere in town. I had to actually order a special piece online and do a rush delivery. Apparently, it's just a very unique piece for some reason. The general pump that I actually got is European, and so most of the standards here, most of the standard fittings here are like, I believe they're NPT. And then this one was a British standard, so I had to order that online. And as you can see, I got some Teflon tape, some plumbing tape there, screw that around, and the thing was fitting in nice and snug. So that's in place. That was good. Made sure I got that piece. And then I went ahead and started connecting the garden hose setup. So basically, I'm not using a water tank. I'm having a garden hose go directly to the actual pump. And so as you can see down there, the little green, it's a 5-foot garden hose whip line. And so I put on some quick connectors to it, actually made it easy to put it on and off if I need to. And then I actually got a filter as well that I'm screwing into that piece of garden hose. As even one piece of sand getting into that pump can be very dangerous. And so I made sure that I went ahead and got that filter on, and then I hooked up 100 foot of garden hose to that. Flexilla is the brand that I used. As you can see, it's nice and green. I haven't got a hose reel for it yet, but I definitely want to soon. As you can see, I'm installing the hose reel for the high pressure hose. So the hose reel, after watching many videos, is a must. Even having to roll this Flexilla up by hand, the green hosing for the garden hose has been definitely an arm workout. And so after this big job that I have coming up here, that's going to be one of the first investments that I actually do, is another hose reel, to have 2 hose reels up and running. It's just more professional, a lot easier to get to and from jobs. But yeah, I'm going ahead and installing this hose reel here. Just kind of drilled some more holes, put some some hex. I always get the names mixed up now getting into this. Some hex bolts through, got some washers and some nuts, and then got it all secured. Then I was go ahead and getting the high pressure hose ready to go. You can't just use any hose for this, because about multiple thousands of psi is going through it. So I had to make sure I got a special hose online. I screwed in the adapter there, so I have a whip line that hooks up to that high pressure hose that I'm setting up there. So I hook it up to the pressure washer, the output, and then I plug that whip line into the actual hose reel, and then the water actually flows through the hose reel. And then, as you can see here, I'm getting the high pressure hose together. So I'm putting the quick connectors on it. Kind of got mixed back and forth with putting a male, then a female, then realizing that, I have all these different adapters that I need to make sure I'm getting the right ones in place. So I ended up using, I believe, a male on the end of that. And then I put a female connector on the end of the hose reel. And so I plugged that in. The very first time I was rolling it up, it was just, of course, a little bit tricky just to kind of get it unraveled properly and get it unkinked. But once it was on there, it's been really easy to pull out and reel back up. But as you can see, I'm kind of struggling there. I got a little rag with wet water on it just to make sure it stays clean. I want to keep the equipment in good quality, good condition, especially in the future. If I get a bigger skid, I want to make sure I'm displaying these hose reels. That's going to be some nice branding, some marketing there. So as you can see, job well done there. So I went ahead and decided to connect the garden hose, hooked it up, turned it on, realized there was a leak in the general pump. So I'm glad I did it before I turned the engine on. So I had to screw that piece back in. That was the adapter I was talking about earlier. And so that was good. Had the water on. And then, as you can see, we got some water flowing through. And so I decided to go and give her a rip. I realized it started to become very, very, very difficult for me to actually pull it. And I was like, what is going on? But I realized whenever I actually pulled it to start, it was actually firing the pump, and pressure was building up in the actual high pressure hose. And so I wasn't releasing that. And I was like, okay, there's something wrong here. It must be the carburetor. Let me go replace that and see if I can fix it. So I went ahead and pulled it off as I did the other day. I bought like a $15 carburetor kit, which is it was an off brand, but it worked. It's been working great so far. So pulled that off, decided to drain the fuel line there, which is really not a smart move. I should have just put it into the gas tank that I had. I ended up having to get another thing to actually hold the fuel. But really, really stupid move, especially dealing with gasoline. Something I need to be more careful about. So I went ahead and installed that to the new carburetor, got everything in place. I was letting the pressure out with the water while I was actually pulling it. And then, as you can see here in a moment, we're cooking, baby. Yeah, so I was like, where's the pressure? And why is it not coming out? And I realized I didn't have an actual tip on it. So later on, I actually put a tip on it. And I was like, okay, great. It's working awesome. It's pressurizing. But yeah, as you can see there, some water was kind of spouting out. You'll see here in a minute. That's kind of an exhaust port, but that's a surface cleaner I had set up. It's basically like a lawnmower for pressure washing. Super easy to hook up to the high pressure hose with the adapters I had set up. And then it has 2 little spray things on the bottom that actually cleans it. So I got my mom's driveway. It's aggregate. So it's actually kicking up quite a bit of stone. I wanted to be careful. And as you can see, I was trying to get this exhaust port. So while I have the pressure washer off, actually the buildup pressure goes out an exit tube. And I just got like a 3-foot long piece of a pipe and just hooked it up there. And as you can see, it was giving me some issues. So I turned the engine off again. And when I went to go start it again, unfortunately, I had ripped the pull cord. So the recoil kit was actually quite old anyways. So I went ahead and bought a new one from Northern Tool, and that's the full setup at night, ready to go. So next morning, I went ahead and wanted to start applying some chemicals. Since I didn't want to pressure wash my mom's driveway, I just wanted to apply a mixture of sodium hypochlorite, which is like a concentrated bleach or like liquid chlorine. And then I have a tool, as you can see, that little white hose. It's called an X-Jet. And it allows me to plug it in directly to the end of my pressure washing gun. And then I drop a tip into the actual 5-gallon bucket, and then it picks up that bleach downstream. and allows me to actually do it. So I wanted to make sure to be really careful, especially when spraying bleach at high concentrations. I don't want to get it on any of the vegetation. I want to make sure it only stays on the driveway. Not a super good job of applying, but hey, I'm getting started. All right, so there you have it. As promised, that was the full process from picking up an older engine and pump from practically a kid on Facebook Marketplace all the way to getting my mom's driveway sprayed with some sodium hypochlorite. So, not gonna lie, it's been a very rewarding process. I was, I surprised myself a little bit in some scenarios. I was definitely very worried about how all of it would come together, make sure it worked properly. I was going over again and again and again in my head the process, making sure I had it all laid out before I actually built it. But hey, if you aren't being challenged a little bit, I don't think you're really growing, right? So I took this as a big opportunity to just improve myself, improve my skills, and ultimately the finished product I'm pretty happy with. Of course, over time, I'm going to upgrade the equipment, upgrade the skid. I'm going to get a new hose reel as soon as I can after I've actually finished one of these jobs that I tell you about here in a moment. But ultimately, the main goal is just to continue to reinvest back into the business, back into marketing, and just continuing to kind of level up that process, eventually get a new truck. But I'm really looking forward to it. And with that being said, when it comes to this big commercial job that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, some of you that have watched, follow me on LinkedIn might know that I've been into racket sports for about a year and a half, almost a couple of years now, playing mainly paddle, Padel, in the Woodlands, and then coming back to BCS and playing tennis. And so with that has come meeting individuals, going to country clubs for many tournaments, many events. And sure enough, one of the days I went to go play paddle, I was just chatting with one of the individuals and I told him I was starting a pressure washing business. And it turns out he's the owner of a multi-million-dollar, they currently have 3 stores, here in the Bryan College Station area called Aggieland Outfitters. And so they basically had some scuffs, in their parking lot, some rust stains from some construction, some mold, mildew from runoff. And so I'm currently halfway through that job, right? I basically, he asked if I'd be interested. I put in a bid and got the job. And so I'm about halfway through right now. I've had a little bit of technical difficulties with that engine, as y'all might have alluded to from the beginning of this video, and just kind of the state of the engine overall. But I have some parts actually coming in today, finishing that up, and then finishing the job tomorrow. So I'm going to share more details in a future video. This video should come up in about 1 week, but it's going to be that full process of me just doing the entire parking lot, the journey, the repairs, all that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to finishing that out. But yeah, if you are in the Bryan College Station area, I'd love to come give your property a quick look. So you can basically send me a message on LinkedIn, or you can look up Stonevale Exterior Co. That's my company name on Google. I'm not going to share the number here because I'm actually changing it here in a little bit, but you'll see the number. You can give me a call, send me a text. I'd be happy to come out to your location to give a quick look. And I definitely promise you I'm going to do my very, very best to make sure you have a clean looking driveway and a house as well. And so with that being said, if you also want to check out some of the equipment that I purchased and overall the whole process, I'll leave a link down below to a copy of an equipment sheet that I use. It has links, has all the costs. Of course, the engine and the pump I got on Facebook Marketplace for a deal. So you might have to find that yourself. But if you want to get into the pressure washing business, everything you need is going to be on that list. So that being said, I really hope that y'all have enjoyed. I really have enjoyed this transition during this time of my life, this arc. I'm still working with some great individuals in my consulting program, but it has been a breath of fresh air to be able to go out there and do this kind of hands-on work. So I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one where I break down this really awesome commercial opportunity. I'll see y'all soon.